Good afternoon. Please tell your classmates to join in.
ವಿಡಿಯೋದಲ್ಲಿ ಹಾಕೋದಷ್ಟೇ. ಗಂಡು ಆರೆಂಜ್ ಇರ್ಬೇಕು. ಬೀಜಗಳು ಜಾಸ್ತಿ, ಒಂದೊಂದು ಸ್ಥಳದಲ್ಲಿ 4 ಬೀಜ ಅವೆ.
Could you tell your classmates to join in so we could start? If for those who would be having difficulty joining the Zoom call, you may also listen to this class live on YouTube channel. I'm posting it live so that those who would have difficulty maintaining their Zoom connection could still listen to our lectures. Okay, but the capacity of this Zoom account would be 500, so I'm sure it will fit all of you. Okay? design an experiment to answer hypothesis questions. I'm just admitting some of your classmates so we won't get interrupted.
ಎಲ್ಲಾರು ಜಾಯ್ನ್ ಆಗ್ಬೋದು. ಹ್ಮ್.
Everyone else kindly
तुम
mute
ब्रेकफास्ट
yourself.
इतना करते नहीं है ना, तो लंच 12-1 बजे कर लेते.
Everyone else kindly mute yourself.
Okay, we're 250. I think we could start. Tell your other classmates to join in. Okay, so let me officially welcome you back to JFSM. Congratulations, you made it through first year. They say if you're through with first year, more or less, you're in. But then again, you have your second and third year hurdles to battle. Okay? So again, I'm Dr. Andres, your preventive medicine and community health chair,
एक
and
में
you
देख लेंगे,
will
ज्वाइन
see
करके रख दे.
me for the rest of your PMCH life here in JFSM. Okay. What is PMCH2?
फोन कर रहे हो क्लास में
PMCH2 is research and epidemiology. Okay, basically, you will still see your professors in preventive medicine, particularly Dr. Navarro. But now you will see also Dr. Lopez, which I'm sure you very well know because he is the king of internal medicine. And Dr. Janice Macaso is also our PMCH2 faculty.
Layo.
Okay?
Wait, kinaabot mo?
So this is a 2 hours, 3 hours per week course, and this course deals with research and epidemiology. So knowledge for this subject would be the essential knowledge of research and epidemiology. So what we would ask from you would be to make a research protocol. We would not ask you to make the full-blown research. What we want you to know and to learn would be the research process. So the skill that we would want you to learn would be to learn the process of making a medical research. So attitude, of course, we want you to know research ethics and how to make a research and make sure that you are not committing plagiarisms. This would be one of the problems that we have encountered in the previous batches. Time and again, I have seen students pass off the work of someone else as their own. Okay, I would rather have you a simple research but done by you than you submit highfalutin research but then it is not your work. And of course, this is almost often the pitfall in any group work. I want you to learn to work in a group as early as now. Hospital work entails a lot of group work whenever you go on duty. As early as now, you have to learn to work in a group, whether chosen by you or chosen by your faculties. Schedule of class is originally Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Okay, but due to your time difference, we've considered it, so we moved it to 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. Is that okay with you?
Yes,
Or
doc.
you want it some other time?
Yes, doctor. No, 555 is fine, doctor.
Is there any day that you would want? I saw that your Mondays are quite free. Or it's okay that you have almost all of your subjects on Fridays.
Yes, doc.
It's okay, doctor.
We'll consider it and
So
let you
if
know,
there are
doctor.
none, if that's okay with you, we will proceed with Fridays 5 to 7 p.m.
Yes, doctor.
Your schedules is uploaded in the team section, in the file section of your MS Teams. That is your schedule for the whole school year. So please look at your file section. Minor changes will be made, but everything will be announced. So far, the changes would be enrollment is extended until April 26. So we are not to give any major exams during those days. So if ever we will give lectures but no examinations. Ideally, only enrolled students will be admitted to class. But actually, I do not mind if you do attend. The problem is when we take exams, make sure by the time that we give our first exams, you have already enrolled. Okay, to minimize any future problems. His strategies would be online lectures and interactive discussions and you making the research protocol. Okay, later on I will show you the schedule so that you will see the output that we expect from you per week so that you know more or less what to do with regards with your research presentation, research protocol. Evaluation for this year, 80% would come from knowledge, and that is from your long exam and final exam. 60 and 20%, which will comprise 80% of your grade. Attitude would be your attendance and quizzes, that would be 10%. And your research, I think this is wrong. So your final exam is 10%, your knowledge is 70, giving your skills research output 20% weight. Policies, you have known this for the past year that you've been with us. So all postponement of exams will be announced only if suspended by the CHED, suspended by the school director, or suspended by the city government. Quizzes may be given before or after any class. There's no makeup for missed quizzes, be it excused or unexcused. Any missed exam, make sure that you have an official excuse to to be endorsed by the college secretary and then submitted to me. There is no makeup exam, just double the finals. As long as you miss one exam only. If you miss more than one, for example, two or three exams, please do talk to me so that we could um,
मैं स्कोर नहीं देख रहे हैं यार
compromise on how
क्लास
we
हो रही
could arrive at your grade. An excused miss long exam will have a grade of 0. Absence from the final, you get incomplete. And students should complete it within a year.
हम
Okay?
कैसे भेज मरवाए
So
अरे
cheating
बुआ लेनी
is
है
equal to 0. Any caught cheating would be either recommended to be expelled or expulsion. Okay. Absences should not be more than 20%. And all other cases or all other problems will be deliberated upon by my department for recommendation to your executive officer, Dr. Ramos. Okay. So any research book, okay. So our online platform, so we will have your PMCH2 MS Teams. So you have your perpetual data email. So treat that as your identity. Don't lose your password and your access to it. Most of your um, requirements should be passed through your official email. Okay? On online class, we will hold it through Zoom or MS Teams, either whichever is available. So for PMCH, we have a Zoom account. However, you are two batches. So if whoever needs it more will get Zoom, sometimes will get MS Teams. Okay? For at least for my lectures, those who will not be accommodated by either platform, I post the lectures live. You may join at my YouTube channel in case you have connectivity problems. Exams would be on MS Forms. Link would be posted during the exam. Okay, usual, you sign in on the video for attendance. So default is supposed to be on mute. Um, Before you do talk, please wait to be acknowledged before you are called. All right. Let me show you the schedule. Okay. So this is the schedule for our school year. We have a lot of classes that would have um, no classes. Two successive weeks we will have classes. That is why we will give you that time for making of your research protocol. See, if you would see, um, next week you will have to have a research topic. By next week, at the end of the lecture, you would have to have your objectives and hypothesis. By the next week, you have to have your RRL. 2 weeks, you are given time to make your research protocol. And then after a month, um, you will, by June, you would have to be presenting your research protocols to us. Okay? So this is the schedule and your lectures as such. Any changes will be announced. Okay? Any questions so far? So that could be found in the file section of MS Teams. Any questions so far?
No, doctor.
No answer? Okay. So what we will have at least for this afternoon would just be a light introduction so that you would know what to do. So um, so key lectures for this key concepts for
Subscribe my Techno Naveen
this
channel with
lecture
bell
would be
icon for more.
understanding the process of research, the role of a hypothesis in the research, and strategies for hypothesis formulation so that you will know your research. Next week, we will learn how to identify a research problem. Okay. So, what is research? So, the knowledge gained through reasoning, through intuition, through the use of methods would be research, and that is the scientific method. Okay. Basic elements of the scientific method would be the following. It could be empiricism, determinism, skepticism. So each would have definitions. So it's empiric if the notion that inquiry is conducted through observation and knowledge is verified through evidence. Determinism is that when events occur according to laws, and skepticism is the notion that any proposition is open to analysis. And of course, you've known through your high school and your college years the scientific method. So you choose a method in which to investigate, to have to identify a hypothesis, make predictions, make an experimental design, then you collect data, determine validity, and determine these results. So, scientific method, we suspect that a factor may influence occurrence of disease of a noted health outcome. So this is your favorite. So you will see these observations in clinical practice when you see different disease patterns, observations in lab, and theoretical speculation. Okay. Your favorite is always the effect of coffee, exposure to computer games, etc. Smoking, sleeping, etc. Lack of sleep, deprivation, and then in the effect of certain disease entities. So please shy away from those studying coffee, smoking, etc. Most of it would have been proven already. So identify variables that you are interested in. So exposure, what are the risk factors, outcome, and disease, such that you could formulate a specific hypothesis. Okay? Your hypothesis would be seeking to answer a specific question about the relationship between a certain exposure and an outcome. So, exposure and disease. So, is the exposure related to the disease or health outcome? So, and then you will encounter different study designs. So, you would see case series, cross-sectional, case control, cohort studies, RCTs, um, that you will um, learn the difference in later lectures. Okay. And then you will see association. From the results of your study, does a statistical relationship exist between two or more events, or two association between exposure and disease outcome? Okay. So your statistical association would be the degree to which the rate of disease or outcome in persons with a specific exposure may be either or lower than the rate of disease or outcome among those without that exposure. So for example, for coronavirus, what is the exposure? For example, going out, eating in public restaurants, exposure compared to the disease coronavirus. Okay, and then you will look at certain associations. Okay, then we assess validity of association. So does the observed association really exist, or is it valid? What is validity? Do you remember back in first year your lecture of validity, reliability? So validity is that your instrument measures what it is really supposed to measure. Reliability is the consistency of getting the same results even if you change observer, you change your group. So are there alternative explanations for the association? Remember also, and you will again see probability, look at bias and confounding variables. Okay. So in your latter lectures, you will learn to make a hypothesis. Your hypothesis shapes and guides a research study in terms of identifying study sample size, the issues involved, how you analyze and interpret your data. So your hypothesis, when you do formulate it, it's testable and can be proven as null or your hypothesis. Okay. So it could either be from literature, experiments, comparisons, descriptive studies, and the like. Okay. So for example, this one is on cervical cancer, incidence and mortality. So what is the observation? So less developed countries would have higher incidence and prevalence of cervical cancer compared to developed regions. Okay. So for example, infectious and chronic diseases show and vary from one country to another. In some, it may be attributed to climate, culture, diet, and genetics. So there are a lot of diseases that we could fathom and have different characteristics depending on how we look at it. Okay? These are examples of your descriptive study designs. We will know more of this in later lectures. So it could be either case series approach. So you identify experiences of a group or patients with a similar diagnosis. For example, you have 3 cases of rabies. So that would be a case series. And identify the experience of a group or individuals with the same exposure. So for example, you have a community, a family with coronavirus positive results. So that could be a case series and you will look at the demography. Population survey approach. So these describe issues related to disease or exposure in populations. So they are routinely collected data from established surveillance or notifiable disease system. So for example, you have your population survey of COVID in India, we have as well, and every country would have because it's a notifiable disease. So what is unique, they usually identify the characteristics of an issue from a representative sample of the population. Okay. So, three essential things that we look at in descriptive studies would be person, place, and time. Any change, I'm sure there would be a difference. Okay. So, person. So, is your host immunocompromised? Since your disease will not occur at random, what makes a certain population more susceptible to a certain disease? So these are different factors for the person: age, race, ethnicity, other diseases, lifestyle, etc. Place, so since disease does not occur at random, where is the disease especially common or rare, and what is particular about those places? And these are your place factors. Okay? And time, how does your disease frequency change over time, and what other factors can be associated with those changes? So these are your time factors. So your scientific method discovers or hypotheses are sometimes resisted because they seem counterintuitive. So this your H0 and your H1, that is your null and your alternative hypothesis. So for example, case series in practice. So you describe clinical epidemiologic characteristics of a number of patients with a given disease. So usually a consecutive set of clinical cases of disease, as mentioned. So then you analyze cases together to learn more about that certain disease. Okay. So H0 or your null hypothesis, you will state that there is no association between the exposure and disease of interest. Alternative, that you will say that there is an association between the exposure and disease of interest. Okay. Another type would be two-tailed. What is the best estimate of the risk of disease in those who are exposed compared to those who are unexposed? So this is removed from the simple either or, yes or no. So you have your spectrum. So there are different ways. So suggest possible events. The rate of survival will increase after surgery. For example, after 1 year, the rate of coronavirus will decrease. Something like that. So another way to express suggest relationship between exposure and outcome. So high cholesterol would likely increase the risk of development of your corona heart disease. Or cause effect. Something, or for example, in this case, smoking is a cause of lung cancer. So it could be one-sided versus two-sided. One-sided would be is in one direction. So in this example, Helicobacter pylori infection is associated with increased risk of stomach cancer. Two-sided weightlifting is associated with risk of lower back injury. So there is no increased or decreased risk. So it should be as specific as possible and your health outcome as specific as possible. So for example, this is poor example of hypothesis. Eating junk food is associated with the development of cancer. As to the human papillomavirus subtype 16 is associated with the development of cervical cancer. In the previous example, what kind of junk food? What kind of cancer? The good example is very specific. Next would be testing the hypothesis. So the study should follow a specific plan or protocol. So study designs follow a specific plan and how the investigation is conducted. Okay? So of course, you have a beautiful hypothesis, then at the end of your research, it's false. But even if you have a disproved hypothesis, that's still okay. Okay? That is just an example of what you will learn for this school year. Okay? I will leave you with an assignment of grouping yourselves into research groups. Okay, I will leave it to you. I believe in freedom of choice. It's up to you if you want to retain your alphabetical groupings. I know you already have that. Um, I also leave it to you if you want to choose your own group mates. So it's up to your class to decide. If ever you do decide to choose your own, what I do request is that no student should be left without a group. If not, we will scrap that choose your own and I will determine your groupings. So if you want to choose your own, make sure that everyone in your class would have a group and no one is left out. Is that clear? So I
Yes,
would
doctor.
want groups of 20 per group. So that would be how many? Around 20 groups for this batch.
Yes,
If you
doctor.
are around 400, am I correct?
Yes,
Yes, doctor.
doctor.
Anyone? Nikhil, please answer.
Yes, doctor.
Yes,
We'll be
doctor.
around 20 groups.
Yes, doc.
Should they
Doc,
expect that?
Yes,
doc,
को
can you
ग्रुप
hear us?
मऊ ले लीजिए
20,
यार.
20 students per group?
Yes,
दोनों को
doctor.
साथ साथ ले लीजिए यार भाई.
Doc, can you hear us?
Yes, I could hear you.
Yeah, we'll make groups of 20 students each and
Okay.
I'll let you know how many groups will be made.
All right, all right. Make sure that everyone has a group,
Yes.
okay?
Yes, doctor.
My problem is most of you are not enrolled yet. Okay? So, but we are to start already because we don't have much time. That's
Yes,
why
doctor.
I am allowing you to attend classes. Okay? So, sometimes I will not have a way of getting your complete list because of the enrollment list. I don't want at the end of the semester or at the end of the school year someone attended PMCH2 but does not have research group. That already happened. Okay? So make sure if you are in PMCH2 you have a research group. Okay? Make sure make sure that you have a group in PMCH2.
Yes,
Okay?
doctor.
And then please the two LOs, please do make sure that everyone has a group. All right?
Yes, doctor. Yes,
Okay,
doctor.
so and also I will leave you think already of a research topic that you would want to work on. Okay? um, think of 3 topics so that when you convene next week in identifying a problem and research topic, you know what topic that you are interested in. There are a lot of topics, especially with the pandemic. Any disease now could be studied in relation to the pandemic. How did the pandemic affect tuberculosis? How did the pandemic affect pregnancies? How did the pandemic affect cancer patients, etc., etc.? So there are a lot of research questions that you may ask yourselves.
शक्ल दिखा रहा हूँ इनको
Okay?
बहुत खतरनाक है
So, so I will leave you with that, and see you next week, and be ready. Your output next week would be that you should have a research topic by the end of the session next week. Is that clear?
Yes,
Yes,
doctor.
doctor.
All right. Okay. Have a great weekend. Stay safe. If there are questions, please refrain from the chat of the MS Teams. I could not read that one by one still. If there are any concerns with regards of the subject, please still course it through the LO. I know the chat makes it easier for you to access me directly, but still everything, unless it's a personal concern, direct it to the LO if it's related to PMCH2. Then we will tackle it one by one. Although my lines would be open for any personal concerns, that's okay. But it will take time because remember, you are 400, the other batch are that many as well. That would be times 4 batches for international and another 4 batches for.
Hello, ma'am.
All right? Yes. Yes. Who was the, any more concerns?
No, ma'am. Thank you.
no doubt
Someone was trying to ask something. SP. No more?
No, doctor. Yeah, no more,
Okay.
doctor.
All right. Okay. Have a great weekend. You may leave this call.
Thank you,
Okay.
doctor.